Hi everyone, Lewis here. These are Imax 3D glasses. Aren't they massive? Look at the size of them. I've never seen these before because I saw Avatar today, 2009's Avatar, and the 2022 re-release ahead of the release of the sequel Avatar: The Way of Water. And yeah, I went to see Imax 3D because I love Imax, and I haven't been to a 3D film since probably 2018, I would say. I'm gonna take these off because it's probably a bit distracting, but yeah, look at the size of them. I'm not too fussed about 3D. I think it's one of the things that kind of came and went, and Avatar came along at just the right time to capitalise on that, and I think that's part of the reason why it's the biggest movie of all time. But yeah, I kind of want to talk about that because it's a really odd thing that this is the biggest movie of all time. And again, this isn't going to be a negative review, even though it might sound like that, and I'm going to try and avoid spoilers just in case someone hasn't seen it, but I guess most people would have by now in some way or another, because it came out 13 years ago. Yeah, it's the biggest movie of all time. Briefly was dethroned and then went back up again, and it's left almost no cultural impact whatsoever. Like, I don't really know anyone that talks about this film, and it's always been a thing, like, oh, name one character from Avatar, and you know, a lot of people can't, you know, and it's such an odd thing, because I watched it back in 2009 in 3D on a normal screen at the cinema with my friend Rob. Hello Rob, if you're watching this, probably not. Yeah, and we couldn't even sit together because it was so busy, and it was like, why is this film such a big thing? Like I said, I think it just came along and it hit at just the right time as 3D, when 3D films in the current, you know, incarnation was still new and kind of exciting and that. And you know, I don't remember there being that much hype around it. It just inexplicably became this big thing. And I watched it back in 2009 and I thought, yeah, I like that. I thought it was pretty good. And for whatever reason, I've just never really felt like watching it since. Like, it's one of the ones where it popped up on Disney Plus. They've taken it off now and obviously get people to go to the cinema to see it. And like, I just thought, yeah, I'll get around to that at some point. I just never did. And then when they said the new one was coming out, they were going to re-release this one, and I thought, yeah, do you know what? I'll check that out. So, check it out, I did. And yeah, it was a really interesting experience because, like I said, I liked it, and I thought, yeah, I'll probably like it again, I'm sure. And then, to start with, for a little while, I was kind of like, oh yeah, I remember a few bits from it, and I was like, yeah, I remember this is kind of how, you know, you set it up and that. And then as it started getting into a little bit of action stuff, I was like, I don't know if I'm really going to be that into this. I just thought, okay, well, I'll sit with it and just kind of, yeah, I'll watch it out of curiosity. And IMAX 3D is a new thing to me, which is interesting. I'll come back to that. But from about sort of the midway point where the humans start being terrible, as humans do, to the Na'vi, and, you know, destroy the tree and stuff. Again, spoilers, but you know, this is kind of what happens in the film. And I thought, that's a pretty cool, pretty intense, like, action scene, and I remember it upsetting me a little bit when I first watched it, because I think a big part of the film is kind of, you could apply this story to any kind of historical thing where, you know, a indigenous species has been wiped out, or, you know, treated really badly by foreign invaders, basically, because that's happened multiple times throughout history, and I think you can apply it to pretty much anything. I think the most obvious comparison here is sort of Native Americans and that kind of thing, because the Na'vi are quite similar in some regards, and like the sort of the tribal nature and that sort of thing, and the way they fight and the way they, you know, live and that kind of thing. So yeah, I think that's that kind of, there's some bits in the film that kind of hit pretty hard on that for me. I know it's just me because I'm a bit of an emotional guy, but yeah, but as it kind of gets into like the third act, and there's the big battle with the, you know, the animals and the Na'vi against the humans and their big ships and that, I was absolutely loving it. I was like, this is great. I was kind of thinking that, you know, I'd just kind of get through the film, but when it got to that point, I was like, this is superb. I'm really enjoying this. And it's just such an odd thing, like, because I was like, actually, yeah, I do like this more than I thought I would, and I was looking forward to the sequel anyway, and now even more so. And it's just a weird thing where, like, people talk quite negatively about this film just because it is the biggest film of all time, and people say it's overrated or whatever, and it's like, it's not, because no one really talks about it, and then people just go, oh no, it wasn't really that good, what's the big deal? And I kind of go, no, it's a pretty enjoyable film. I really like it, like, everything else aside, you know, I sat there and I watched it and I really enjoyed it. And the other big thing about this film that, you know, you can't talk about it without mentioning is obviously it's a James Cameron movie and it's all his thing. And in his, you know, fairly long and, you know, storied career, he's only made directed 7 movies, which is quite interesting, really. And I really admire James Cameron because I think he's someone who just does what he wants. You know, he has a vision and a goal, and he does it. And you know, I think he'd been planning these Avatar movies since like the 1980s, and he was just kind of waiting for the technology to be right for it. And he made the first one. It became the biggest movie of all time. Like I say, it's been 13 years since then. And he goes, right, I'm doing 2, 3, 4, and 5. And you know, even though it was a massive financial success, it's like I say, there's not really been much call for a sequel from most people. And it's just been one of those things where it's just like, everyone's going, why is he doing this? And it's like, because he wants to, and he can. And the first one made loads of money, so the studio's not going to say no to him, are they? But it's just really interesting. I think I really like his commitment to the visual quality of it, and he's saying, like, with the re-release, he thinks a lot of people are going to see it differently because the quality of screens and the quality of, you know, just how things come across has really improved since then. Like, and it definitely did look really good. Like I say, I'm not that fussed about 3D. I haven't seen 3D film in a long time, but it was pretty cool, like, kind of watching it. Even like the beginning bits just before the film starts and the logos and stuff in 3D, and I think, oh yeah, that's what it's like, isn't it? It's like there, like when you're watching it. And yeah, it was kind of cool. Like, you get used to it, like you do with anything. Like, you know, an IMAX screen's amazing, but you do get used to it being there, kind of thing. And yeah, so it's just. Yeah, and then occasionally in the film there were bits that just kind of popped out, and I was like, oh yeah, this is 3D, isn't it? But yeah, I enjoyed it. I say, the other thing I say is that I really like the cast in it. Then none of them are like kind of, you know, really kind of standout actors, and I don't mean that in a bad way, because I think they're all really good. But like, you know, Sam Worthington I really like, and he followed this up with like Clash of the Titans and Terminator Salvation, which, if I recall, didn't do particularly well. So I think that was kind of, he was gonna, you know, be placed as like a big action star, but it didn't really happen. And you know, I've seen him do quite a few things since then, and recently, like, he was in Under the Banner of Heaven, the TV series, which is really good because he's a really good actor. I like him a lot, but I imagine if you're in the lead in the biggest movie of all time, you can probably pick and choose the rest of your career because you're gonna have a lot of money coming in, aren't you? So, you know, fair play to him. But yeah, Sigourney Weaver's in it. I love Sigourney Weaver. Always great to see her in anything. Really like Zoe Saldana as the main sort of Navi woman. I can't remember her name now, but there you go. But yeah, and it's easy to forget it's her because she's just playing that character, like, in all motion capture and stuff like that. But she's in that. She's in Avengers Endgame. She's in loads of Marvel films, so you know, she's doing all right, isn't she? Blimey. But yeah, you know, fair play. She's a great actress. But yeah, and I think the standout for me from before when I saw it and this time was Stephen Lang as like the gruff military colonel who was just kind of no nonsense. He was a very good protagonist. Like, he was a very unlikable character. Antagonist, bad guy. I get them mixed up anyway. But yeah, he antagonist, isn't it? Yeah, thank you. Don't know what I'm saying thank you to, but you probably just shouted at the screen then. And Giovanni Ribisi is kind of the sleazy company guy. It's kind of like, yeah, that he was really good as well. But yeah, like I say, I think the overall story works. Like I say, it is that whole thing of an indigenous species, kind of like, you know, these rich people want something they have on their land, and they come in and they take it, you know, or try to, as the film goes. Which is, you know, it's a story as old as time. It's just been put in this mystical kind of world kind of thing. Yeah. So overall, I really enjoyed it. I say I like the creatures as well. I could talk about it for a while. I'm not going to, but I like the visual stuff. It all still looks really good. I like a lot of the characters. So yeah, I think this is a really good movie, and I think people are too hard on it. And I'm really looking forward to the sequel. If you are thinking about going to see it, then definitely do. If you liked it before and you want to see it on a big screen again, do IMAX 3D if it's available to you. Try and do it on something special. Like, I think if you're watching on a normal screen, it might not be as quite as engaging kind of thing. But you know, maybe it is. I don't know. But yeah, and just there is a tease for Avatar 2, Avatar: The Way of Water, like sort of mid-credits, so stick around for that. Absolutely, that's interesting to look at. But yeah, I enjoyed it. I think if you haven't seen it before, definitely go and see it, 'cause I think it's worth watching on a big screen. Anyway, yeah, thank you very much. This has been my review of Avatar 2009 2022 reissue in IMAX 3D. Thanks.